Welcome into Scoops with Danny Mac on Fox 2. I'm Dan McLaughlin. Tonight we're talking baseball, and my guests will include the Cardinals general manager, Michael Girsch, from the start of the baseball season, which has included some great moments already, to bringing back Yadier, Molina, and Adam Wainwright, and pulling the curtain back on the Nolan Arenado deal as the Cardinals made the biggest move this past offseason in the game. Michael Girsch will be my guest. Also, you've seen him for 20 years as a member of the Cardinals television broadcast team. Always informative, entertaining, and now in his 20th year with the broadcast team, Jim Hayes will be my guest. Coming up for the Cardinals, they're back at home after a very quick stop out west, and tomorrow they will have the day off. Then on Tuesday at Busch Stadium, we will see the Pittsburgh Pirates for 2 games. Then the Cardinals have the Cubs in town for the first time since 2019. Remember, those teams did not meet up one time a year ago in the Gateway City. Cardinals general manager Michael Girsch had a unique road to Major League Baseball. In 2005, wanting to pursue a career in baseball, he wrote an academic paper on the valuation of draft choices and sent it to teams. John Mozeliak, then the GM of the club, read the paper, was impressed enough to bring Girsch into the organization in 2006. Incredible story, and he's been there ever since. Let's bring in Michael Girsch. And first of all, Michael, thanks for coming on the show. It's great to see you. I know you feel the same way that I do, and it's the fact that it's just great to have baseball back.
Yeah, it's great to be playing back at Busch Stadium with fans. It's certainly not the same thing as 40,000, but anything is better than an empty stadium we had last summer. So it's fun.
What do you think the Cardinals and then baseball as a whole, industry-wide, learned about dealing with COVID and how some of those practices are being used now going forward in 2021 and beyond?
Well, I think there are some things that will definitely stay with us as we go forward. I think the efficiency with which we kind of go through a day has changed. As you know, players and coaches at times have arrived, at 9 a.m. for a 7 p.m. game because they can and they find things to do. And I think we've done a better job of when people are on site, they have a purpose. They arrive with an agenda for the day, with a schedule, and they knock things out, and they have a little bit more time, to on their own. We just things like that. I think we've improved that will probably stick with us even beyond the pandemic. Of course, everyone's creatures of habit, so we'll see whether the habit stays or the habit creeps back to what the habit used to be as we go forward. But I think we've made some changes that'll stick around.
So when you reflect on last year and you dive into the numbers and you break it down, does it blow you away that you were not only able to make it through the year, but found a way into postseason play?
Yeah, when you think about that stretch when we finally got going again and we came out of the chute with a doubleheader, one game, a doubleheader. I think we played whatever it was, 7 in 14 days. The fact that we were able to get through it, that 7-inning rule for doubleheaders that they put in place before the season last year, or as season was starting last year, seemed somewhat inconsequential at the time. It turned out it was a godsend for us. I'm not sure adding 2 more innings to all those doubleheaders we could have survived pitching wise. But everything that the staff did, the players did to buckle down and stay healthy the rest of the year, to make it through all those doubleheaders. You got to prepare twice. You got to prepare for every pitcher on the staff when you got a doubleheader. You got 2 starting pitchers to deal with. It's just a lot of extra work went into it, and the fact that we not only made it through, but made it in the playoffs and qualified. Would have qualified in the normal playoffs. Didn't make it into the expanded playoffs. We would have been a wild card team. So it was a good year. It was impressive.
Okay, let's go from that to the offseason, pulling the curtain back for the fans. What was it like trying to get the deal done for Nolan Arenado? Just how complicated was it? It had to be crazy.
Yeah, it was a long. We were very close for a long time. I don't think We've obviously been in communication with teams on deals for a long time that never happened, and some for a long time that did happen, but we've never sort of gotten all the way to the dotting I's, crossing T's, and spent so much time dotting I's and crossing T's. And it was partially the complexity of the deal with the contracts involved and renegotiating and making adjustments and all that sort of stuff. But it was stressful. There was definitely periods where we sort of celebrated that we had gotten it done, and then like 4 days later we're still trying to get it done. And so it was a long weekend of trying to finally make it official and be able to announce it.
So now you have him. What's that been like watching him every day? What's really caught your eye in watching him?
No, there's little things. Watching him go back on pop-ups, like he goes back like a center fielder. He's made some plays already doing that. A lot of defensive things. We had the infield in at one point, and Nolan doesn't really come in. He has such confidence in his arm that he just comes in a few steps and is sort of like, I got this from where I am. I'm good. And you just don't see guys who sort of. He's such a good defender and knows he's a good defender and takes advantage of that and how he positions himself and how he plays to sort of take full advantage of his skills. It's really impressive.
So that's one of the leaders of the team, and you have one of the young guys of the team in Dylan Carlson, and he's really producing. Last year, crash course in Major League Baseball for him. In retrospect, how beneficial was that for him and your team?
Yeah, I think it always helps the first time guys come to the big leagues, the first time they go on a road trip, Look, when I went out, anyone, whether it's a player or anyone, the first time you sort of step into a big league clubhouse, it's intimidating. And you're just trying to figure out where to stand and where to sit on the bus and how to not, end up in the wrong spot at the wrong time. And I think going through that last year was a challenge. And Dylan, scuffled a little bit early, but came back, the second time we brought him up, and then through the playoffs played really well and has hit the ground running this year. And this is the sort of player we expected. And he's not the first guy who's had a tough, 50 at-bats to start his career, and he's going to go on to great things.
How about another young player, and Tommy Edman? He's been your leadoff hitter, played second, the outfield. His versatility, it's just got to be huge for the front office. Yeah,
he's such a fundamentally sound player that we can do a lot of different things with him. I mean, he's versatile defensively. He's a switch hitter, which makes him versatile offensively. He's got speed, which means he can function anywhere in the lineup and take advantage of that. He's really kind of grown into an important, very important part of the team very quickly, which has been exciting.
Hey, Michael, please hold tight. Coming up, I want to shift gears from the young guys to the veterans, in particular, Yadier Molina and Adam Wainwright. That's next on Fox 2. Scoops with Danny Mac is brought to you by Schnucks, Lou Fuse, Royal Banks of Missouri, and Ryan Kelly, the home loan expert. Welcome back to Scoops with Danny Mac on Fox 2. A reminder, there's daily content on the website, scoopswithdannymac.com. Podcasts, features, articles. If you've missed Bernie Miklasz and his writing, you can see it all daily on scoopswithdannymac.com. And the 2-2, he gives it a ride. Into right center. Goodbye. Home run. Yadier. Yadier Molina becomes the first catcher in Major League history with 2,000 games caught with one team. Swing and a miss. Struck him out. The curveball, and he struck him out. He is locked in tonight. Welcome back to the show on Fox 2. It is amazing what Adam Wainwright has done at the age of 39. Yadier Molina will turn 39 on July 13th. They're still playing, and they're doing it at a very high level. Let's bring back in Michael Girsch, the general manager of the Cardinals. And Girsch, is it hard for a GM to separate himself from being a fan of those two and conducting your business? They are so special to St. Louis.
No, it's hard. I mean, they've been playing at a high level for the Cardinals since before I joined the organization, and that was a long time ago. So it's great seeing them perform well and have the status in the history of the organization that they do. The combination of those things is not to be taken for granted, and the fact that they're doing both right now it's been fun to watch, and it's been a huge part of our success so far.
Well, let's talk about the stars of tomorrow and what's happening in the minor leagues. Any of the new rules being used down there catch your attention on something that maybe we eventually see in Major League Baseball?
I mean, it's sort of interesting. I think some of the smaller changes are more interesting because I feel like they're more likely to trickle up to the big leagues. So things like making the bases a little bit bigger, which should, in theory, help people be a little bit safer around first base and around turn double plays and things with bases just a little bit bigger. And also, in theory, makes the distance between the bases a little smaller. Like that 90 feet is from the center of the base to the center of the base. The base is a little bit bigger, that distance a little bit smaller. It might make a difference in stolen bases, things like that. But that's going to be really hard to notice. You're going to have to really dig into the data to notice whether or not stolen base success rates go up and the like. Whereas other ones that are much more, in your face, allowing where guys are allowed to position themselves defensively, or whether a left-hander's allowed to do that pickoff move without stepping off the rubber, those will be more in your face. But I think those are a little bit longer, a little farther away from ever being, implemented.
How excited do you get about, and the organization, about Matthew Liberatore and Nolan Gorman?
It's amazing. I feel like we traded for him like 7 years ago. He had his first performance in an official game in a Cardinal uniform and pitched well. I think 6 innings, 2 runs, didn't walk anybody. He had a good first performance in Memphis. So he went from having pitched in low A the last time he put on the uniform and faced another team in a real game to AAA. So that's exciting. And Gorman's off to a little bit of a slow start at AA, but yeah, I mean, we're just excited to see competition for all these guys. I think they're incredibly excited to face someone other than each other for the first time in forever. Those guys especially were at the alt site last year. Just, Gorman faced Liberatore dozens of times, and I know they're friends, and I'm sure they had some fun with it, but at some point you're ready to face somebody in a different uniform. And so we're excited. It's very early, obviously we're only a couple games into the season, but it's just exciting to have game reports to review and box scores to pay attention to, and see where these guys can go.
And a final thought about the minor leagues. Because there wasn't a season last year, how careful will you be with their pitchers and their workload this season?
Yeah, it's very much a pitcher-by-pitcher situation. No one threw official innings last year, but a lot of guys threw in various, baseball factories or in their backyard, or some guys didn't throw it all because they didn't have a place to throw. Some guys had, a bunch of other college or pro players in their neighborhoods they could, have some, scrimmaging with. So we are definitely going to try to obviously react to what the players tell us and see how they all, react to getting these innings in. The season in the minor leagues is already a little bit shorter because of the late start, but we definitely have to keep an eye on this. I think you will not see a lot of starters go more than 6 innings for a while, because we're going to start them slow, make sure they ramp up into the season effectively. The nice thing that we have at the minor league level is the rosters are expanded a little bit, so we have a few extra pitchers at every level. So if a pitcher needs to come out after an inning and a third because he's hitting his pitch limits, we'll be fine. We've got the reinforcements on site to make that work. So that makes it a little bit easier for this year.
Hey, Michael, have a great year, and thanks for doing this.
Thanks, Danny.
Coming up, I'll visit with Jim Hayes of the Cardinals television broadcast. He's celebrating his 20th year. The man known as the Cat, coming up next on Fox 2. Scoops with Danny Mac is brought to you by Blue Tail Medical Group, Royal Banks of Missouri, Hair Saloon for Men, and Triad Bank. Welcome back to Scoops with Danny Mac on Fox 2. For 20 years, Jim Hayes has been a part of Cardinals TV, and that is an incredible run and a major milestone. And he's done it with class, always informative, always with a great sense of humor. He's become a part of the great tradition that is Cardinals baseball. So I thought, well, Jimmy just hit 20 years. I got to get him on the show. Let's welcome in my great friend, Jim Hayes. Jimmy, congrats on 20. What has it been like for you, this run of 2 decades?
It's been unbelievable. I'm a guy from New York, came here actually from Philadelphia, then Kansas City. And Cardinal fans have embraced me from day one. And I always say I'm a St. Louisan because my son Tyler was born here and because people have treated me so well from day one. I know sometimes with folks from out of town, there's a getting to know you period, but Cardinal fans have been great to me, and I'll never forget that.
20 years, an amazing run. So what's the best part of your job?
Because it's kind of different every day, and it's certainly a different job during the pandemic now. I'm glad we're playing baseball, but I'm getting tired of the Zoom stuff. Like, my thing is you want to get to know players, and that means you got to be in the clubhouse and bother them a little bit and have them give you some grief. But we're navigating it. But the fun part is getting to know players. As you know, Danny, we've had some great guys here, and it's been a lot of fun getting to know them and covering a team, quite frankly, that's been really, really successful. That's pretty good, too.
Now, you've taken your role to another level, in which you're such an important part of the broadcast. You're part of the family of the Cardinals. So when I say that, does that resonate with you?
Yeah, it humbles me. And in a sense, I think back to my dad, who used to say, the main thing is show up on time. Showing up is half the battle. That's why I like to look at it. I'm not great at my job, but I show up on time and I'm always there ready to work. So
We've talked privately a lot about your dad, and not many know that he has an entertainment background. It's really cool. So tell fans what he did.
So, I mean, he was a boy singer early in his career. He has a gold record, and he was a crooner. So when crooning went by the wayside because of rock and roll, he had to find other ways to use his talents. He's the most talented guy I've ever known. And Danny, I always say this, and this is the truth. You're the most talented guy I've ever worked with. He's the most talented guy I ever knew. So he ended up hosting game shows, and he ended up being a talk radio host for years. And he was able to just reinvent himself. So, he always gave me good advice. I miss him to this day, but he was such a talented guy. I always say how when I have to do a show and everything, I get a little nervous. I'm going over notes. My dad would host big network shows, and he would just pop in a couple minutes before, flawless. That's something I don't have, but he passed along a lot of good traits.
What do you think he would say to you about being a part of the Cardinals family and the Cardinals broadcasts?
He'd be really proud of me, and even the other kids in my family would say this. I don't know why, but my dad was always proud of me. So I could bring home a C and he'd pat me on the back and say, "Good job, son." My siblings, my brother and my sisters, they would say, not so great, but Dad always praises you. He would be really, really proud and holding on to a job for a long time too.
You've interviewed everybody, so who's your favorite interview?
That's one of the great things about this job, because there's been a lot of memorable ones. I think about Ric Flair. I don't know why, but I wanted him to chop me down in the dugout live on the pregame show, and he did it, and it hurt. And in regional cable journalism, you can't show pain. You got to finish the segment and get through it. That was great. Eddie Vedder, we got during the postseason, during one of our postseason shows, and it was just a meaningless little interview, but it was posted online, and in it, that was when the Cubs were just starting to get good, and he said, "Yeah, I don't think we can tour during the summer anymore. I think we're going to stop touring because, the Cubs are going to the playoffs now, so we got to stop touring." And it was picked up by a bunch of music publications. Even Rolling Stone had a mention. Who else was it? Larry King, mostly because he knew who my dad was, and he's an awesome guy, was an awesome guy. And I think the most challenging and scariest was Brian Wilson. Remember the beard? San Francisco? Well, it's one of those things, Danny, and you've done my job probably better, but you're doing the post-game interview, and back then we would do the opposing team if they won. So you're out there trying to get somebody, right? You got a slot to fill. And he had closed out the game, and their PR had said, "Yeah, you don't want to talk to him. He's not that great." And there he was, and I was like, I'm going to give it a shot. And you know how he had that persona, that character, the growling, gruff, the beard guy? So I did, I would say, maybe a 12-second interview with him. But it was good because you could actually see the persona come out. The other one, too, was when Sotaguchi was here, Jim Edmonds, our colleague now, who'd have thunk it back then, said, "When So does something good, put him on the post-game interview. I can translate. I'm really good with him. I'll be the go-between, I promise." And I was like, okay. And so had a homer and a single, and I was like, "So you want to do the post-game interview? Jim Edmonds is going to help." He had no idea really what I was saying, but he's nodding, and he's a polite guy. And then here comes Edmonds. I'm like, "Jimmy, I'm doing the So Taguchi thing now. Come here." And he ran right by. And in my ear, I hear, "Okay, 3, 2, 1. And we taped an interview with a guy who didn't speak English.
Well, I'm curious about your favorite athlete or favorite Cardinal to cover over these 20 years. Who would that be?
It's hard because, and you know this, Danny, there's been so many really good guys, and I hate to leave some off. I've really got a big respect for Matt Holliday. I know you do too. He's been one of the great guys. I think of guys like Skip Schumacher, Matt Adams. There's been a ton of them. John Jay, guys that you kind of, I always say I like to be work friends with the guys. Lance Lynn was another one. You still stay in touch with a text here and there. But there were so many, like I said, I don't want to leave them out. But that's one of the great things about this job and about the Cardinals organization. They've had a lot of great people as players, and I got to know them.
And finally, how about this year's team? Who do you like to cover on the 2021 Cardinals?
I got to say, of all the, and there's a bunch of them, that I like all these guys. It's a great team. The Zoom creates a little bit of a barrier. Danny, you know how I work. I like to go down there and just kind of get in the mix a little bit in the clubhouse. We can't do that now. I would say the most intriguing guy to me is Paul DeYoung, because every time I interview him, I say, what are you into now? And he's into something complex. You know, he's a really intelligent guy. And then he explains it to me, because I'm not the brightest guy in the room. And I always learn something from him, but I'm always intrigued with what he's into next.
Here's to another 20 more, Jimmy. Congratulations.
Danny, I appreciate you having me on.
As good of a job that Jim does on the games, and it's sensational, he's a way better person. Congratulations, Cat, on 20 years of Cardinals baseball. Thanks to Jim Hayes, Michael Girsch, and remember, we do this every Sunday, 10:30 right here on Fox 2. And we'll see you next weekend.